Hi everyone, this is my latest project. It's a bit different from the space shooter I was working on in my last devlog. I've since put that project on hold for a number of reasons. I've basically given those reasons in one of my blog posts. Should be one of my latest blog posts as of this recording. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and read my blog. It's exeneva.com, exeneva.com. Anyway, this is my latest project. It's basically a remake in progress of a popular Shockwave game that I played several years ago, actually a long time ago. It's called Spybot, the Nightfall Incident, and it was basically a turn-based strategy game on a virtual board. And it was fun and interesting because it it gave you a lot of player choice in terms of how you wanted to approach each battle, I guess you could call it, each situation. Basically, you would put the premise was that you were a hacker and you were fighting, or you were putting programs into like a computer or like a network, and you were using these programs to fight enemy programs so that you could hack into the system. And I liked the variety of different sort of levels. There were some levels where you want to use like more long-range programs and try to set up like an island, uh, just like a defensive barrier around your own programs. And there were others where they were just like long battles where you just moved around programs and you had to think through and make sure that you didn't lose all your programs before you were able to take out the last enemy program. And so basically, if you had to put it in some sort of context that is relatable, you could think of it like chess, but where you put or where you pick which pieces you want, with no pieces being overpowered, like without a queen, um, and also how you want to place them. And of course, unlike chess, the rules are obviously different. The board is obviously different. As you can see here, there's the spaces that comprise the game board here, and then there's all these like empty spots here where uh, basically you can't move your pieces. And so that's something I've taken from the Shockwave game is that the board had a lot of missing pieces, and there were programs, well, there was a program that allows you to add pieces to the board as well as remove pieces. So you could change the actual game board dynamic. And I really like that. That's one thing I intend to add in this sort of remake. And just a bunch of other things such as modernizing the graphics a little bit, cleaning up the interface. Like in the old Spybot, there was the old Shockwave game, there was an interface on the left here, and the game actually took place uh, in about 2/3 of the screen was the actual battle area, and that was um, basically on the right. And I didn't really like that. I felt like that was kind of an awkward orientation. I would much prefer to have things on the bottom, kind of like modern day RTS games. And so that's what I've done with the interface here. I've basically moved it to the bottom, expanded the game area to be more rectangular as opposed to a giant square that took up 2/3 of the screen. And so that's what you have here. And before I go ahead and show what I currently have, I just want to talk about some things that I'm not doing in this project, just for legal reasons. So for one, I'm not remaking Spybot, the Nightfall Incident, like an exact clone. I believe that the original game is a gem in and of itself. It's fantastic, and I don't want to remake that game. That game is great, and if you want to play that game, then you can play that game. What I want to do is I want to make a sort of spiritual successor, kind of like a reimagination or a remake with modern elements, with a different story, with mostly similar mechanics. The core mechanics that made the Shockwave game good are in this project. Um, and so I just want to keep the elements from the Shockwave game that I believe are great, and then just expand on those to make a different sort of game that can be played on, hopefully, played on mobile devices and also on the computer and desktops, just like the original game. And so here I'm just gonna go ahead and show you what I have. This is what happens when you first load up the game. The game board is actually randomly generated in this prototype. So if you, well, there's not a public version yet, but whenever I release a public version of what I have, you'll basically see a different game board than what I'm seeing here. You'll see the board actually be generated, and the things that don't change are the 3 spawn points here. You'll always have 3 spawn points. The computer will have 3 spawn points on the right, and the board will just basically be a different layout. Here's the notification box in the center. Select a spawn point on the left, begin deploying programs. So basically the way this works is you hit OK, the notification box goes off the screen, and then you pick a spawn point, and then you get your prompt, choose a program to spawn. So since this is just a prototype and I'm mostly just going for getting a working prototype of the original game, just like a working version, I have not included all the programs that were in the original Shockwave game, and I don't intend to. Like I said, I want to make this a different sort of game with elements that the Shockwave game did well. And so you'll see a lot of programs here that pay homage to that game, but overall, the pieces of the board that you'll be able to place, the programs, will be different. So here, this is basically a hack. This is what I call bitware, and this is a seeker. Basically, the hack is just like the hack in the Shockwave game. It can have a lot of parts. You'll see that later. It does damage. It's melee range and it has a lot of moves. So I'll go ahead and spawn one of those. This is called a bitware. It's not really intended for damage. It has very small number of parts. It's melee range, decent number of moves. Its main purpose is utility, to add and remove spaces on the board. Now adding removing spaces on the board is not implemented in this current version, so all it really is right now is just like this moving worse version than a hack. But I do intend to add space removing and addition later on, because as you see here, the board is not very, there's only one route from one side of the board to the other, and being able to expand these broken elements here to create another route could be very important. And so I'll be definitely adding that, hopefully before I release a public version. Last one's a seeker. It's just like the, I don't remember if there's a seeker in the Shockwave game, but basically this is a relatively long range program. Its range is 4, 3 moves, doesn't have a lot of parts, and does decent amount of damage. So I spawn my programs. After the player is done spawning programs, the computer will spawn programs, and basically you'll see that right here. Now these programs are randomized. The computer will always spawn different programs. So now it's our turn. So basically you can select one of your programs, interact with it. You'll notice that there's like there's basically white outlines of the icons. This is to let you know that these programs still have actions. So basically, once a program has done everything that it can do for that turn, it will no longer have the white sort of faint outline around it, around the icon. Similar how the computer programs over here, you'll notice they don't have the white sort of icon outline. That's because they're not active right now. And so you'll actually be able to see which programs you currently have that are active. So right now, pretty much what I have is movement. You can move the programs around, and just like in Spybot, the Nightfall Incident, your programs generate parts. These parts are basically the health of the program. So, you know, the hack has 4 maximum parts. If it loses all of its parts and the icon part, then the program is gone. And pretty much it's just like combat or like health works in the Shockwave game. If you lose all parts of a program, as well as the main part of the program, then you lose the program. And your goal is to take out the parts of the enemy programs, as well as their their sort of core object, their core block or whatever you call it, to completely destroy the program. So normally there would be other options. I mean, right now this is just a prototype. It's not a lot of functionality that's currently been implemented. You can't actually fully enjoy fighting a computer AI. But basically here you have one option, and that is no action. And you'll see here that I selected no action for the Seeker, and it lost its sort of white outline around the icon, and now it looks just like the computer program, the enemy program. Um, Later on, I intend on adding other actions such as like attack. For the bitware, you'll have like add or remove a space, stuff like that. But for now, this is basically what I have. You can spawn programs, the computer will spawn programs, you can move your programs around, and then that's it. I mean, it says computer turn. I have not implemented the computer AI yet, and so there is no actual computer turn. But basically, this is what I have. I hope to have more to show you within a couple weeks, and hopefully I will have a playable public prototype within a couple of months. I'm a bit hesitant to release anything early. I don't release things that I believe are in an incomplete state. And so if there are issues, like suppose I have some, problem developing the computer AI, or I'm just not satisfied with it, I will probably hold off on releasing until I am satisfied with it, because I don't like showing off, um, like I said, don't like showing off to the public prototypes that I believe are inadequate or do not show a decent example of what the final product could be. So basically what I'm going to be working on the next month or so, possibly next 2 months, is working on the computer AI. So the computer actually has a turn and that it moves, and also adding functionality to the player programs such as combat uh, for the hack and the seeker, and then being able to add and remove spaces for the bitware. So that's what I have now. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.